Hey everybody, so we are going to talk about what sold in my online shops this past week from the 14th to the 20th. And I am going to get right down to it because it was actually a really good week and I have lots of things to share with you. But all I wanted to say right now is to stay till the end. I did try something new in reselling, newish. I have done this before, but it's been a while and I did it in a totally new kind of avenue or venue genre, whatever you want to call it. So you saw my title and I'm going to talk more about that at the end of the video. So I will right now get into what sold on eBay. Trying this again. I recorded all of this yesterday and it failed me. My computer failed me. Anyway, so like I said, we were just starting with eBay, and the very first sale I had on here was for this Disney Piglet plush. It was new with tags, Disney baby, and anyway, I don't know, I love Pooh Bear and all those characters. I love the classic Pooh characters, and anyway, that's what my oldest had when he was a baby. Target had a line of classic Pooh plush, and so that's kind of always been, I don't know, just a soft spot in my heart for that. Anyway, so that sold for the full asking price of $15. I don't remember where I picked that up. Honestly, I've been thinking about it, and I have no memory. It might have been a yard sale, but I remember getting it just because it was new with tags, and it was Piglet, a little bit not an unusual character, but not as common as Winnie the Pooh. Next one is a pair of cargo shorts, and the brand is Polo Ralph Lauren. It was Polo jeans, actually, if you look at the tag. So these are like a Y2K 90s, and they're really popular right now. I have sold 2 pairs in the last recent weeks if you've seen my other What Sold videos. And you can see the fabric on this is what's called ripstop. It has that grid pattern on it. And so these were like, there's a patch on this side pocket that's kind of like a faux military surplus kind of look that they're going for. So these sold for $40. I sold one other pair for $50 and the other pair for $40, different colors. And anyway, I would definitely pick these up again if I find them, for sure. Next up is a necktie from the 40s. I love the pattern on this tie. I think it's so interesting. It's kind of like a stylized flower type thing. Go a little closer so you can see it. Really great colors. It was in really good condition, and this sold for the full asking price of $39.99. And I will show you the tag. It was Towncraft Deluxe. I love the fact, like, it's part of the price tag, it looks like, but it does say rayon, so we know, I knew what the necktie was made of. That wasn't silk, which is, rayon is fairly common during the war years there. So the other thing I knew from research, as I say in the description, tag also reads resilient construction, so likely before 1947. So what I had learned from research was that Towncraft stopped putting resilient construction on their labels after 1947. So that really helps with the dating. I love it when there's something concrete like that you can figure out. Next up is another necktie. This is a different era, 1950s. You can see this one's a little skinnier. The wider ties, we think of 70s with the wide ties, but the materials in the 70s are going to be more like the double knit polyesters and things. Earlier, the neckties that are wider are usually shorter, so they're very much like swing era, swing ties. And so the 50s, the ties start getting more narrow. This was a beautiful plaid pattern. I have always loved this tie. I've actually had it a while. I had it on Etsy. I had it a while back, and then for a while it wasn't listed, and then when I was getting ties together to try to get them listed, I was like, all right, I'm just going to put, this on eBay. And I've actually been pleasantly surprised with the sales I'm getting on eBay for vintage neckties. So I think the collectors are pretty well, they know to look to eBay for what they're looking for. So they're checking Etsy, of course, too, but eBay might be one of maybe more where they're looking maybe just out of habit. I don't know. Or they're looking for great deals. But this one sold for $25 as shown. It didn't have any stains. Here's the label. Fun little vintage label. Wembley was the brand. Northeast Non-Crush was the type of fabric or material that they advertised. Chico's is the next one, the next brand. This was a faux fur vest that was like a reddish purple dyed color. I went ahead, I asked $50 for this and it sold for the full asking price. The size on it is a size 3. If you're familiar with Chico's, they use a different kind of sizing system. So the 3 is more of a plus size. 3 and 4 are going to be more plus size. And so that's kind of what I stick with. I don't pick up all Chico's. I just kind of pick up either something more substantial, or I stick with like size 3, size 4, but also having something somewhat interesting to it to catch someone's attention. So $50, I was happy with that. That's fall, you know. People are starting to buy already for fall. Anyway, next one is this vintage Kmart's Best undershirt tank top, also known as a wife beater. That's terrible. But anyway, it's a ribbed white tank top. And if this had been, it's in its original package. It's supposed to be 3, but there was only 1 left in the package. If it had been all 3 and if it had been sealed, I definitely would have asked for more money. This was just the 1. And I just thought it was still worth it because it's definitely vintage, made in the USA, paper tag on the tank top. It's still in its factory folds. So I just, was worth picking up for the 50 cents or whatever it was that I picked it up for. And I sold it for $8. I ended up just taking an offer. So yeah, if it had been the full package, definitely always check vintage underwear in the package. And even like 90s and also and earlier, and then also undershirts, just different things like that. People get their favorites, or people want a certain look that's not available anymore. This was a hunting vest. This was one of my husband's listings. I'm thinking he picked this up at the bins one of the times when he went there. And he sold it for $25. He was kind of laughing because he says, I keep sending offers for this thing. People keep watching it. I keep sending offers. Nobody ever takes it. So he mentioned it because he had one more person favorite it and be eligible to send an offer. And so he complains about that to me, about how no one ever accepts it. And then finally he had someone accept it. And he's like, I've been offering $25 just to try to move it. Anyway, we got the right person finally. $25 that sold for. And we got feedback on it today, and they were happy. It came earlier than they expected. It was well packaged. All that fun stuff. This was an interesting little clutch handbag purse. The brand was, let me find the label for you so you can see it better. Maurizio Taiuri, made in Italy. I don't know how you say that, but it was calf fur, but it was like dyed in a zebra pattern. And it did have a little bit of damage or something, schmutz as we like to call it, on the fur on the back side. So I did get a $20 offer. And I just went ahead and took that. I didn't know much about the brand. I did pick it up at a thrift store that I like to go to. It was about $5, $5 or $6. So, and only sold for $20. So I would probably, if I saw anything like that again, I would just double check the comps on it. If it was like a bigger piece or something like that. This was a vintage tile trivet for Mount Desert Island in Maine. And I remember picking this up. This was on our trip a year ago in North Carolina. The town my folks live in is, they have a grocery store that has turned into a thrift store. So it's huge. And the shelves are just full, full, full. I think the woman takes in estate leftovers, things like that. And usually once things are on the shelf, they don't get cleaned out. So stuff just kind of keeps getting added to it. I've been going to that place for years and years and years, ever since I lived there in 2009. I think it was open then. And every time I visit, I make sure to go to it. So we found some hidden treasures there. A lot of the stuff just ends up, it's broken. And then she does do, it's like a woman by herself, I think. And she does do a clean out here and there, but it's fun because it's still set up like a grocery store. So there's, the cold cases in the back and they're full of Afghans or something like that, or, and it's just dishes for days and books for days, and just, it's fun. And then there's a basement, and there's furniture and all sorts of craziness. So we always go when we go out to visit the folks. So I picked this up there. I just thought somebody might want to have that. And I sold it for $18, and I think I paid $1. Daniel Cremieux. Okay, not a brand that I totally recommend picking up. I had picked these up, I think it was kind of as a joke. I remember being with my youngest son, and we were thrifting, and I don't know, I came across 2 of these. So same exact color, same exact shirt, same size, everything. And I think, I don't know, my husband and I had been joking about this brand. And so I told my son, like, oh, let's tease daddy, let's get these Daniel Cremieux shirts. And anyway, they were at least linen, so I knew I did have a chance of selling them. Well, they sat in the closet for a while, and then finally we got them listed. But my husband did the listing, and he put them together. Like, he was just trying to lot them up to go, and nothing happened. And I was like, you know what? No one wants 2 of the same color shirt. They might want the same shirt in 2 different colors. So when I just recently redid my whole store, ending and selling similar, I just took out some of his pictures and I just turned it into a listing of 1 with a quantity 2. And so I sold 1 of them for $15. So I'm totally happy with that. I'm glad 1 of them at least is moving. The next brand was new to me. Picked it up at my little kind of swanky thrift store. So I see a lot of tags there that I don't usually see or have any experience wearing or anything like this. I don't know where this brand is sold. It's called Grady Zuger, I don't know if I'm saying that right. But this was it was an interesting looking jacket, lightweight kind of tunic jacket. It had embroidery, it had lace. And I only would have picked it. It would only would have been $3 or $4 at that thrift store. And I took an offer for $25. So I'm totally okay with the profit. Some of the pieces I think I have seen sell for higher, but I went ahead and took that offer. It was the beginning of the week, and things were still kind of slow towards the beginning of the week. And I was like, all right, let's just get some cash flow here. And so $25 was good enough for me for that. We sold a winter hat. Winter's coming, people. And this is normally a really good brand, Icebreaker. I did pick up this hat at the bins. I think I remember that. And we had this listed last year. So it did sell a lot slower than I expected. It was in really good condition. I have listed like an Icebreaker merino wool dress that sold like overnight. So some Icebreaker stuff can be good. This just didn't go quickly. And we finally sold it for $14. Here was a baseball cap. So it's my token baseball cap of sale for the week for you. This is Nissan. I didn't know much about it. I just know I do sometimes pick up the car brand ones. I wasn't even sure what Nismo is, but my husband just nodded like, oh yeah, whatever. So he listed it, and we got a $15 offer. I let him handle that because I hadn't done any research on this hat, and I was kind of surprised he went ahead and took the $15 offer, but I think he just wanted to move some hats and get some things going. And then we kind of hit weekend. Things got crazy on the weekend. You know, some of these sales I think were like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but we had this sale. My husband's been listing like crazy. He's not been feeling good, but he can list when he doesn't feel good. And so which is awesome. It actually, he says it helps take his mind off of pain. Anyway, this is a 1950s Gillette. So it's definitely, you always want to take a look at vintage shaving equipment and shavers and razors and things like that. Gillette, especially some of the bigger names. There was another name that popped in my head the other day for razors, but anyway, maybe it'll come to me. Anyway, my husband researched this one. I picked this up at an estate sale at the beginning of the summer, and we've been cleaning out the garage and moving things around and getting rid of old stuff, old listings. We've been doing a lot of cleanup. My husband's going to participate in a yard sale this weekend, and so he's going to help us get rid of some just junk that we have, or older listings, not necessarily junk, just stuff that hadn't sold. But anyway, we unearthed this box from earlier in the summer, just a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, remember these? You need to look it up. So the box had, I got it at a yard sale. It was $10 for the box, and there was this razor, there was another one, there was all sorts of odds and ends kind of shaving related. So I thought $10 was a good gamble, and this one paid off. It sold for $90. He said that there's some with a blue tip that would sell for even more. So you definitely have to kind of look up each model and such, and some razors can be worth big money. This was kind of a fun one. It's been listed for a little while, but I used to pick these up all the time, and I kind of stopped. Prices have come down a little bit. But when I saw this one, I was like, you know what? It's enough webbing to recover 2 chairs. So I thought, even though it's one package, that might be kind of cool. And then, or you can do one chaise lounge. And they paid the $16.99 for that. Someone's going to have a new chair. And last thing on eBay, okay, don't look at these pictures as indicative of anything I'm trying to teach you. So my husband, this was another thing, he was, listing things really fast. He takes his pictures in a different spot generally than I do. We just have different workspaces in the house, and since he does a lot on Etsy, he does a lot, you've seen some of his pictures where it's on this wood work surface, but just with like a white wall behind him. So it's usually two-tone. And yeah, there's a lot of comment about things need to have white background. I prefer white background. On Etsy, it doesn't matter so much. And he sells things, and he even sells things on eBay with that not white background, right? So, and I use my background for different things is like gray. So, we don't always I use white for my clothing, and that's pretty much it. Anyway, but this little eyeglass, you attach it to your spectacles. It's like a loop magnifier. It's got 2 lenses on it, which some of them only had 1. Anyway, as you can see, there was an original box that went with it. So I saw that he had posted these, and I said, honey, can you go back and take another picture? First of all, maybe not on the dark background, because I felt like the magnifier was just disappearing into it. But I'm like, can you do a main picture with the box and the loop? And so he just kind of looked at me and he's like, oh yeah, okay. Well, then later the day they like sold, right? So obviously it didn't matter because this was a sought after item. So they sold like, yeah, later in the day. And then he's looking at the listing later and he's like, that's so weird. He's like, my main picture was everything all together. And he's like, it must not have uploaded to eBay. So anyway, that happens. And if it's a sought after item, it really doesn't matter. I mean, his pictures are nice and focused and clear and everything, so they could see what they were getting. But he said we sold that for $60, and he did say that he went higher than recent comps. He does like to go higher just so there's room to make offers and stuff like that. But he also said there were none available at the moment. So it was an overseas buyer, went ahead and just paid full price, $60. Now we picked that up on our road trip, and I probably showed it in one of the haul videos. It was one of the first probably the first haul video from that thrifting trip, because it was in that little middle of nowhere Montana antique thrift store, and I paid $8, I believe, for those. Moving over to Posh. So it was actually a pretty good week on eBay. Posh, there's less sales, a little bit less than normal, but I don't know. This was a, as you can see, a UPS coffee mug. Now, it's a heat changing mug, which means when you put the hot beverage into it, this will change. So the truck, I think, goes away, and then you can see the plane, which you can still kind of see anyway. Just kind of a novelty trick. I'm pretty sure I tested it. What do I say? However, when hot water is added, the truck only fades slightly. So I did disclose everything. And somebody offered me $10 finally. This was already in a box to get rid of. I just hadn't delisted it from everywhere yet. I was kind of done with it, but I got the $10 offer and I said, all right, sounds good to me. Another sale on there, Tommy Bahama. This model of sweatshirt is called a Flip Shore. It's reversible, and 2 different colors, and it has, it was new with tags. Now, everyone with Tommy Bahama, normally you think of the silk shirts and the Hawaiian shirts and the embroidery, and those really are what do the best. But there's certain models of just basic Tommy Bahama clothing. Like, we've sold this Flip Shore a few times. It has to be super cheap or really good condition or a larger size for me to pick them up anymore. But since this one was new with tags, I was like, you know what, that's a no-brainer. So I went ahead and bought that, and we sold it for $45 on Posh. I found Lily Pulitzer at one of my local thrift stores, and it was half off day, so I only paid probably like, the dress was either $6 or $8, so I would have paid like $3 or $4, and I took a $30 offer. And then another vintage Ralph Lauren polo shirt, but long sleeve, made in Bolivia, just kind of classic preppy look to it, and we took an offer for $18. And then I bought this not that long ago. It's a flannel shirt by Cool. Everybody's favorite brand. We're going to start calling it the Reseller's Sweetheart brand. Anyway, it's KUHL, and this was just a woman's size small flannel shirt. I paid $5 for it, sold it for $25, but it only took a week or so, maybe not even, to sell. This was fun. I've had this hanging up for a bit, but in my listing challenge, I went ahead and did I got this one listed. It's vintage Fredericks of Hollywood. Let me show you the label. It had the paper tag, made in the USA, but I'm pretty sure this, I think I saw something similar to it. Like, this was like a shrug kind of jacket. At first I was like, well, Fredericks of Hollywood, like maybe that's like a bed jacket or something. And I guess it could have been, but it also could have been just the over jacket to a like a sheath style dress. It looks very 80s to me. But it had these crazy like organza puffed sleeves, and then the back had that sheer section with this, I think it's called soutache trim on it. Just kind of a fun piece. And so Poshmark, I think my auto offer that went out was $21, so someone bought that. Peter Millar, another great bread and butter type thing. I usually pick it up if the price is right. Now this one was just a button shirt, and I was like, I don't know. It's, it's a golf brand, and so, this is just a casual kind of button shirt. We had it for a little while, but anyway, $34 on Poshmark. I was totally happy with that. And then another bread and butter golf brand, Travis Matthew. It does not sell as high as Peter Millar, but it does sell consistently as long as you're happy with like the $18 to $25 range. This one sold for $23, so it's right in there. I usually, at this point, I'm just sticking with the larger sizes, XXL. The color was kind of interesting. It was blue, midnight blue with that black contrast collar. So I went ahead and did that and sold it for $23. Moving over to Etsy. So we'll start in my husband's shop, and this pitcher, the stainless steel pitcher, I totally remember buying this at a yard sale. I bought it for $1, and the brand is Lundtoft, made in Denmark. And we sold this once on eBay for $99.99, $100. And then it got returned to us. And her reason for return was that she didn't like it. It was too small, something like that. Well, it came back kind of dinged up. And I'm thinking she probably used it at a party. And either she was done with it, or I suppose it could have been too small for her. Didn't fit enough alcohol in it for her party. So we took it back, and my husband, I think it sat for a little bit. We were trying to decide what to do with it because we had to take new pictures and new description and everything. And so he put it in his Etsy shop and sold it for $85. So we're still good profit. And then another Danish modern piece. I do remember getting this also. It was also at that grocery store, thrift store in North Carolina, which next time I go visit my folks, I will record. I will let you see. I have taken some footage before, but I think I just put it on Instagram. And yeah. Oh, and the lady has a cat that lives there. It was a different cat when I lived there, but now there's another cat, and the cat just comes up while you're shopping. Like, anytime I could thrift shop with a cat, that's like amazing. Anyway, this was just $1 or something like that, but I recognized it as a stopper to something good. It said Denmark, so I figured it was a stopper for something Dansk, so I just brought that home so that we could sell it as a replacement to someone, which we did. Now over in the pattern shop, these next 3 patterns I'm going to show you all sold to the same person. There was this Vogue 1990s vest. Remember when people wore vests like shirts? Anyway, vest and skirt sold for $15. Love this look, very login look. This was a jumpsuit dress kind of thing, or you could just wear the crop top. Another 90s pattern sold for $15. And then she took also this McCall's Laura Ashley jumper and blouse. Now I have sold this pattern before, and I got $17 the first time, but it was a larger size and it was uncut. This one was cut complete, but it was a size 8. It was really small for patterns. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to throw it up there for 10. Let's move it on. And that was nice because the lady bought all 3. So I think her total was 40 something. So that got her the free shipping, that deal that I have set up on Etsy. Now Ruby Lane actually had quite a few sales, as you can, well, you can't see yet, but you'll see I have quite a few sales on Ruby Lane. They have been in business for 25 years, and so they are having an anniversary celebration thing. So all week they had a 25% off spotlight sale. that you could add items from your shop to. So I went ahead and did it. I put quite a few items on at 25% off. And so most of the items that you're going to see did sell in that sale. And it started off really slow. There was just a sale on Monday and one on Tuesday and then one on Thursday. And then the weekend hit and like I sold a bunch of stuff. So this was a cake breaker. It had a really pretty porcelain handle. It sold for $15. So I think a lot of $20 items sold because, well, I don't know. I sold a lot of things for like 12 to 15 this week. So that went for 15. This was a pair of Taxco Mexico sterling earrings. They were not clip, they were post, so they were probably like 80s, 90s. Very 80s kind of motif, or 90s with the bow ribbon. The gold part on it is just brass. It's kind of normal for the Taxco pieces. And those sold for 12. They went overseas. I went ahead and allowed someone from overseas, had asked if I would ship there. I generally do. Some shipping things changed at some point, and so I kind of took it off of a lot of my Ruby Lane listings, because most of my overseas buyers on Ruby Lane are like from China and Japan, and they will use a third-party shipper. So I didn't really feel like I was missing out on any sales, but I should probably fix that and change that. But you never know. I might get more sales if I did open it up. And I just went ahead. It was $12. And I went ahead and said, sure. And I added the shipping. And so she purchased right away. Okay, so kitschy kitsch can sell on Ruby Lane. People tend to think of the fancy schmancy antiques and not the frog and the mushroom and all that kind of thing. So this, as you'll see later on when I talk about how I sold my $245 worth of stuff, this, I would have pulled this and also sold it in that location. That'll make sense when you see that part of the video. But it sold here first before I got a chance to do that. So $27, this was in the sale. Just a fun little vintage 70s, 67, probably 70s, right, piece. And we got that moved on. A little ceramic perfume bottle and kind of an Asian motif, I guess you would say. Yeah. Oh, I Google Lensed it. It had been at Pier 1. Sold originally at Pier 1. And that sold for $12. These sold to someone I know from Facebook, and I did not even make this connection, but she was like, I have been eyeing those for a long time, and these belong in Atlanta. And I was like, Atlanta? Like, to me, they're Western looking, but I forgot about the Atlanta Braves. And so that's what I'm guessing she meant. $8 for those. Oneida Twin Star, one of my favorite patterns, very mid-century. These were butter spreaders. I do have another set of 6. I just listed these as 6 with a quantity 2, and I double checked that they just wanted the one set, and $24 for those. Another item that sold in the sale, I'm happy to move on, it's been in there a while, is this aluminum bangle bracelet from West Germany. I love when things are marked West Germany because we know they're vintage right away. Sold for $9. It's very pretty, right? With the machine, I don't know if you would call it etched. I used etched, but it might be like machine turned or something like that. Barbie. I have had these for a little while. I got them at a yard sale last year. I picked up, a lady had a bunch of Barbie stuff that she was getting rid of at her yard sale, and I got them, but I just didn't do anything with. I had a couple older dolls. I knew it required research and everything. Well, with the hype with the Barbie movie, I was like, I have to get that stuff listed now. And now at least they're listed. So this is the first thing to sell from those pieces that I put on. And I love the fact that, you know, these are definitely vintage, but we're on the original card. I think it's missing one. Like there should be five or six. There should be, I think. Anyway, and then these were not necessarily Barbie branded, but they were all together, so I just threw them all together. These I did not have in the sale. That was my full asking price of $18. New delineator recipes. I also had picked this up at a yard sale. I probably paid too much on this. This was a estate sale. I think I got it for like $4 or $5, and it only sold for $12 on the sale, but you'll win some, you'll lose some. Now, towards the end of the sales, a woman came in and bought 3 items, and I just decided to show all 3 at once. So I've got this little tiny Spode demi-tasse cup and saucer. There was a little tiny Ainsley mini creamer, and then Stengel I talked about, I think in my last What Sold. This was a bird figurine. And so they sold for $10, $19, and $15. Now the shipping, basically, I might not have the shipping set up. I know I have disclaimers in my listings that say, like, the buyer can go ahead and put everything in there, like make an invoice, and I can figure out shipping and fix the shipping and then send them the invoice, or I can just refund them the difference. That's kind of how I have it set up on Ruby Lane. So they didn't send a message or anything. They just paid the combined shipping, and they ended up being like super close to me. So we went ahead and did priority mail. I think we did. Maybe we did. Yeah. The stuff was super light. So it didn't end up being that expensive to go, because they were just like really close to us. So I refunded the difference in the shipping. And then 2 more on Ruby Lane. This Monet brooch in this bamboo pattern sold for $12 again. And another Monet piece right in the last few minutes of the sale. Someone swooped in and bought this for $18. Very chunky link bracelet. So I just have Depop to talk about real quick. This one was last week, like the week before. I think I forgot to mention it in my last What Sold video. I don't get that many Depop sales, so I sometimes forget if they were earlier in the week by the time I'm doing the What Sold video. But anyway, this was nice because I just woke up to a full price sale. LL Bean, lamb's wool, sweater vest. I used keywords like grandpa vest, grandpa core, academia, dark academia, outdoors, whatever. Anyway, not necessarily vintage, I do not believe. But it sold for $36. And then the next one was also a full price sale for $27. And this had gotten a lot of attention on all the different platforms, but we kept getting lowball offers. Now we've had this for a while. I'm pretty sure I thrifted it originally, but my kids were little and they would wear it if we'd go hiking or something like that. It's an adult size hat, but it was nice because it would cover ears and things like that. Anyway, those were my sales for the week. So without further ado, I am going to go right ahead over to the next segment so you can find out how I made that $245 in an hour. You'll get the details. Okay, so as promised, I wanted to explain to you how I made the $245 in about an hour on Facebook. Now, okay, an hour of selling time, but not an hour with prep and everything like that. So I would say for about 5 hours worth of work, my husband and I were figuring it out. We made about $245 in 5 hours worth of work. And that was like him doing a little bit, me doing a little bit. And so not too bad. And so what I want to explain is that I recently joined a group on Facebook called, I'm going to pop up what the group looks like here. It's called Quirky Weird Vintage or something like that. Anyway, they have a couple sister groups. So they have vintage like from the 90s and before. Very much into, people are into very much 60s and 70s and that kind of thing. You know, people like their mushrooms and their owls and their all that kind of stuff. Just anything kind of weird and vintage. And if you know, that's the kind of vintage I like picking up. Something that's just a little bit unusual. And that's what people are looking for. So the way the group works is at any point you could just post an item, just one single item for sale if you want to. And they do have guidelines of, you know, what they want included in the listing. And it's pretty detailed. Like you can't just throw up a picture and be like, hey, it's a shirt for sale. Sorry, I should have brought water down here. Anyway, so they, you know, they want measurements, and there's kind of a list of measurements. If it's a clothing piece, there has to be condition. You have to say what it is. You have to talk about what payments you offer, PayPal or Venmo. I think those are the main things. So there's a bunch of different rules. But anyway, you can just, anytime you want, just pop up, you know, one item for sale or a couple items or whatever. They also have an option if you want to do what's called a purge. And so you can gather up a whole big lot of items and then run a sale at a particular time. So you can put up a picture of all of the items that you want to sell, or a couple pictures or whatever. And you just say, okay, at, you know, 5 o'clock mountain time, I'm going to be selling these items. And you can tell people that they can ask for a tag. And so right before you start putting these items for sale, you tag all the people. Basically, you type out their names or you respond to their comments, give them a notification that you're about to start posting your items for sale. Now, in that same thread, that's right under that same post that you made, in the comments, first comment you say, or, you know, after everybody says tag me or whatever, you say, okay, I'm starting, and you put your first item for sale, you give your measurements, condition, your price, and then under, like, as a reply to that comment, you can add another picture of the back or of the detail or something like that. And as soon as it's out there, people can claim it under your comment. So they comment under your comment and they say, claim mine, and they leave their PayPal address. Okay. So the idea is, it's kind of a flash sale where you just post the next item, and then you post the next item all in the comments of this thread. And if people are watching, or they're on there and they're seeing that you're putting items out, now they may have looked at your little description, you know, your little picture of your items, and they're like, ooh, I want that mushroom cruel, right? And so they're waiting. And as soon as like you post it, bam, they're trying to be the first one. Sometimes there's a little fight involved, you know, and then you have other comments underneath, next in line, whatever. So if the first person doesn't pay, you can go ahead and offer it to the next person. Anyway, when you do all that, then you, when the sale is done, you're just like, okay, I'm done. Then you pretty much have to figure out everything that people had bought. You collect up their PayPal addresses, email addresses, and then you can go to, I use PayPal. That's what I prefer. I like it all in one place. I go to PayPal invoices and I fill out an invoice and I send it to them. And then they pay, and the site has it like a requirement that they pay within 12 hours of getting the invoice. So I decided, I had played around with the group a little bit. I kind of was watching how it worked, how people, you know, it seemed like a very active group. So there's tons of groups out there like that, buy, sell, trade groups, they're called. And I have done this type of sale before with a sewing pattern de-stash group, and I sold off a bunch of patterns that way. And I always thought, you know, if you needed a quick cash flow, infusion of cash, if you could find a good group to do that in, that it's definitely the way to go. Now, the sewing pattern ones, You know, for the most part, I was just selling sewing patterns that weren't worth listing by themselves in my Etsy shop, but I could still on a weekend do a couple sales and get a few $100s from it. So anyway, so here on this quirky group, I was like, I wonder if I did like themed sales and like, could I just, you know, I have so much inventory. I have so much vintage stuff. And, you know, if I could sell it maybe just at a little bit of a lower price, but move it, I'd be happy with that, right? So what I decided to do was to do a Western sale. I think I've talked about them before, but I had a bunch of vintage Western shirts, and they'd been hanging up in my laundry room, and I was like, okay, I need to have like a Western listing day and just blast out my Western shirts. Now, I had some really funky vintage ones that I had gotten a while back, and I was like, okay, I gotta do something with that. So I actually did pretty good. Most of the shirts sold, and I don't think my prices were much less than what I would have gotten online. I mean, a little bit less. They were a little bit less. Now, I didn't want to, okay, there are certain Western shirts, very fancy, very embroidered, that yes, definitely are going to sell for more money. There's a type of Wrangler shirt right now. I did not include them in the sale. I'm going to list that separately on eBay. I have a couple of those, but like this one, I sold this one. I think I sold these two together to the same person. So like I said, I had gotten some of these really kind of specialized, one of a kind, handmade ones. And they sold, right? So my prices were probably, this was the lowest one because it has an issue with the seam. Okay, it just needs a quick fix. Someone can do it just like that, not me, because I don't do that kind of thing. And so I did that one for like $12, but most of them were like $20, like this one. Here's another one. And then some I just kind of did $16, $18. And then I had another lady, she bought 4 things from me. Okay, so she bought this scarf. It's really vintage. It's like a state souvenir scarf from Montana, but it's stained and it's got issues. And so I just, $3, just kind of got rid of it. She bought this brooch. It's a JJ brooch. I had it listed on Ruby Lane. I pulled it off for the sale and it sold for $7. And then she bought 2 shirts. Now look at that one. $25 for that one. So pretty. And then this one's embroidered. Nice pastel green. So that one is a vintage brand, so it wasn't you know, one of the homemade ones. But anyway, somewhere $18, $20 for that one. So that was kind of fun. Now guys, remember this jacket? So I sold this one for $50. It had a ton of interest, but there was a woman who bought it, and she bought a bunch of other stuff too. She spent over $100 in the sale. Now, she has not paid yet, but I have dealt with her before, and I know she will. So anyway, this awesome. Yes, I probably would have gone a little bit higher on eBay, but how long would it have taken? So $50 for that. And then because the woman had, this customer had bought so much stuff, she told me that at the end of the sale, you know, when other people had claimed all the shirts, that, you know, if there was any shirts left over, she asked if she could get them for half off. And I said, yeah, sure. So I gave her that one for half off because it's just stuff moving out of my house. This one I had listed, but I pulled it for the sale and it sold for $10. Just a very funky handmade denim vest. I sold this Roper shirt. Sold that for 20. And then there was like a little kids one. This possibly was my husband's. You see little Mace in his rodeo days. I'm not kidding. Okay, and then this one. Just very plain, just peach, nothing special, you know, no embroidery or anything like that. So I think that one was like 16. And then this was one of the other leftover ones, just a Wrangler shirt. And we did half price on that one. So what did I say? That other red one was half. That was 10. This was 9. Okay. So that whole pile is done. Like, we're going to ship it tonight, or, you know, whatever's paid for, we're going to ship. And then probably tomorrow I can ship the rest of it. Now, I did a mix of clothing and hard goods. The hard goods did okay, so, but not great. But some of them were like mugs that I was about to donate, and they were like Arizona mugs, and I thought, well, let's just give them one more chance. None of those sold, but I did pick up Snoopy from the bins the other day. He's missing his vest. Otherwise, he probably could sell for a little bit more, but I got $4 for him, and since I paid probably less than a quarter, you know, that's fine. It made somebody happy. I also ended up putting this in the sale. It's not exactly Western because it's a souvenir from the Seattle World's Fair. It's for a kid or a really tiny person. And it just has kind of a Western look to it. And I sold that for $10, which is basically the eBay price that I found. This was just like something we picked up somewhere in a random thrift store. Super cheap. And it's just a plastic letter opener. And I think it was like a quarter or something like that. And I just did $2 on that. And I was surprised. It went in one of the people who bought multiples. They just added that to their order. This is what I'm talking about. This thing I have had listed forever. Etsy, Ruby Lane. It's really cool. It's a shoehorn and shoe brush with horse and everything. Made in Japan, plastic. Couldn't sell it anywhere to save my life, and someone bought it for $7. And so, you know what? That's better than donating it. And then last but not least, this is one of my mysteries. I have had this vintage new old stock Canon beach towel with a Wild Wild West scene on it. I thought this would be, it's one of those things where my gut just failed me, because I'm like, people love vintage linens. They love vintage beach towels. It's new old stock. It's Canon. It's like so many things. And I had it on eBay, and I had it on Ruby Lane, and I had it on Etsy. No one cares. Oh my goodness. So I said, you know what? It's going in the sale. I let it go for 20 bucks. And this lady bought it, and I am super happy about that. So that's my story. I am super pumped about the results I got from this. It is a lot of work. I'm not saying this is like an easy way to sell stuff. It's very reminiscent of like a Whatnot or a live sale. It's very reminiscent of that. It's kind of preceded the live shows. So I think you can, even in that group, I've seen people do a live show with a Facebook Live kind of thing. So you could still do that. But I want to do some more sales like this to just kind of try to get caught up on some inventory and just get some stuff moved. You make a little bit of cash flow. So the work we had to do, my husband spent the time to measure the shirts and get the measurements needed that were required. I gathered together more of the hard goods, and I got that information ahead of time, measurements, condition, all that kind of stuff. I just wrote some notes real quick. And then, so we would say probably about 5 hours, 1 hour to run the show. I had about 35 to 40 items, and it took about an hour to get them all posted. And then probably another hour, half an hour to an hour to send invoices. That kind of trickles in. People kind of bought at the time of the show, but then for the next couple hours, they also bought. They also kept buying. So that was kind of cool. But anyway, that was my little experiment that I was running. Like I said, I would like to try more, so you'll probably see more on the channel during the what sold videos. And let me know in the comments down below, have you ever run a show like that? Have you seen those Facebook groups or seen how they work in that way? A lot of buy sell trade groups, I think you're just posting maybe one item at a time. Anyway, what do you think? It's, like I said, it was a bunch of work, so I'm not saying, you know, hey, this is the new solution, but when things are slow on eBay or other places, sometimes you just kind of have to go find where the customers are. Where are they buying? And I was watching this group and people were spending money, and so I was like, hey, let's just try it. Okay, that is it for my what solds for the week. It was actually a pretty good week. Anyway, I've already talked about it all, so I won't bore you again, and I will see you later on this week.